literally out of nowhere just yell, Slayer! You know, just, go and...
Today we are ranking the albums of Slayer, and we're starting at the beginning with Show No Mercy in 1983.
Blasting our way through the boundaries of hell. No one can stop us tonight.
My personal favorite Big Four debut album, since I like things on the heavier side. Love the evil atmosphere and general satanic vibe, which prompted mail from the Parents Music Resource Center telling them to stop making albums. I imagine if they only knew how much more crazy metal would get from here. Like, if I had a time machine, I'd love to hand Tipper Gore a copy of something like Lord Mantis's Death Mask and record her reaction.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Rebellious album opener and Evil Has No Boundaries. Love the malevolent tones of Antichrist. Fight Till Death is a real head bobber, hitting that high note at the end of Tormentor. Similar energy to Venom, and I can see how this was an inspiration to burgeoning black metal bands at the time as well. They really made a statement right from the beginning, and I'm not sure if this is still true, but it was Metal Blade's highest selling release, apparently. I am putting it at fantastic. Next up is Hell Awaits in 1985. They put more money into this one after the success of the debut, and you can really hear it in the production. Still a great balance of that raw edge while stepping up the satanic atmosphere right from the start with the title track. Love the vocal effects on that one too. Also love the syncopated vocal cadence on Kill Again. Praise of Death is full of great moments, awesome riffs on Crypts of Eternity. They also said they were highly influenced by Merciful Fate around this time, leading to longer runtimes and more progressive structures. More appropriately, Hellfire Atmosphere. Again, great listen, start to finish. This is going to fantastic as well. Then we have Rain in Blood in 1986. You just say the words thrash metal, and this is always going to be one of the first albums that comes to mind for me. Produced by Rick Rubin and released on Def Jam of all labels, who would have thought that one of the heaviest and most legendary metal albums would come out on a hip-hop label? So many classics on here: Angel of Death, Necrophobic, Criminally Insane, Jesus Saves, Postmortem, and of course Raining Blood with one of the most memorable guitar hooks of all time. Just a wicked, evil-sounding record that doesn't mess around at under 30 minutes with not a second wasted, and I hate to be basic, but it is one of my favorites of theirs. It's up there for so many people for a reason, in this case, I would say. It's going to perfection. They followed that up with South of Heaven in 1988. Now, this album took a while to grow on me for whatever reason after the past couple decades, but I was jamming it again on a plane back home the other day and was probably freaking out the people sitting next to me with my quiet headbanging. Another killer opener and title track with a hook that is a defining moment for the band. And really every track is a banger here as well. Silent Scream, Behind the Crooked Dead, Read Between the Lines, and the Southern Fried Dissident Aggressor bring highly infectious foot-tapping hooks, and Ghosts of War and Cleanse the Soul are pure adrenaline headbang fuel. Mandated Suicide brings more great dark atmosphere, and Spill the Blood caps it off on a very similar note as we started with. I know some people list this as their absolute favorite, and now I can understand why. I have moved this one up since last time to perfection. By the way, reminder that you can comment your own rankings with your agreements and disagreements below, as this is just my personal opinion. Also, like the video while you're at it because it helps me in the algorithm. But next up, we have Seasons in the Abyss in 1990. This album feels like a balance between Rain in Blood and South of Heaven. You've got some slower, more plodding songs, but then also balls-to-the-wall ragers. Rick Rubin once again producing and perfectly capturing their dark and hellish sound. War Ensemble is a great opener, and for my money, one of the best Slayer songs of all time, definitely in the top 5 for me. Then there's also the incredible Blood Red, Expendable Youth, and Dead Skin Mask. Honestly, depending on the day, this is frequently my favorite Slayer album overall. It is also going to perfection. Then we have Divine Intervention in 1994. Paul Bostaff replacing Lombardo on drums, and I feel like this album has kind of muddier production to it that I'm not a big fan of, but that said, I was wrong about this record as well. I previously called it their first disappointment, but this time around, something just clicked. Killing Fields makes for another killer opener, while Fictional Reality has some great groove. Other solid tracks, Sex, Murder, Art, Circle of Beliefs, and definitely Ditto Head. I still don't love the title track with its slower, more atmospheric vibe, and 213 feels a little try-hard, but Mind Control makes for a killer closer. I'm gonna put this one at fantastic. And we got Undisputed Attitude in 1996. I'm only briefly talking about this one as it's mostly covers of hardcore punk bands like Verbal Abuse, Minor Threat, DRI, Dr. No, etc. I don't generally count covers albums as part of a band's formative discography, but most listings include it, so why not? It's honestly quite solid, but I just don't go back to it very often. Some good tracks and their own song here, Gemini. I'm gonna put this one at good. Then we got Diabolos in Musica in 1998. This is their first album to be played mostly in C-sharp tuning, and it's named after a musical interval known for its dissonance. A lot of people call this their nu metal album, which while I can hear the influence in places, I wouldn't go so far as to label it as that. Still, the cover has kind of that very late 90s, early 2000s nu metal edgy vibe to it, and the single Stain of Mind even has the head up riff from the Deftones Max Cavalera collab song Soulfly that came out just a year earlier on Around the Fur. Kind of an overhated album. I actually appreciate that it's at least trying some new ideas. There's some dynamic elements in the songwriting and some cool moments for the bass guitar too, but it does have some bad moments as well, like Overt Enemy. Even so, I have kind of a soft spot for it. I enjoy listening to it. I'm gonna also put this one at good tier. Then we got God Hates Us All in 2001. Now, in many ways, this feels like a continuation of the ideas from the previous album with more of an emphasis on groove metal. I actually remember when this one came out too, when I was in high school, and my friends were all pretty stoked on it. It starts pretty strong with more standout hooks on Disciple, which was actually nominated for a Grammy, and for good reason. That song is catchy as hell. Like, you cannot not scream along to that chorus. God Sends Death is also a bop, but then we kind of dip in quality after that. Tom's vocals and the production gets on my nerves at times. It's got those 2000s loudness wars issues, and the slower cast down Deviants and Seven Faces are good examples of the more grating tracks here. Bloodline is okay, Warzone and Payback bring back some of the thrashy energy, but overall I did not really enjoy this on the latest revisits. I'm going to put it at okay. Then we have Christ Illusion in 2006. The return of Dave Lombardo on drums and more great cover art on this one, at least the original cover art. I'd put it among my favorites in their discography. I remember really enjoying this one when it came out in college, but for some reason it kind of fell out of my rotation for some time. Flesh Storm makes for a very classic sounding opener that would be right at home on the 80s albums. Great shifting rhythms on Catalyst and Jihad. Cult is another Ragers. Supremist goes hard. Catatonic and Eyes of the Insane is a better slower track, a la South of Heaven. Big improvements from the last one around the board. It just feels like a more full return to their thrash metal roots and a more rounded modern mix and production. I'm going to put this one at great tier. They followed that up with World Painted Blood in 2009. This is sadly the last album with Jeff, and another one that really grew on me since my last time doing this. I originally complained about the production and guitar sound, but going back to it now, I can see just how much they were pretty effectively going for a more throwback feel. Killer riffs on the title track and Hate Worldwide, Snuff, and Public Display of Dismemberment are great. Beauty Through Order has some cool atmosphere, and Psychopathy Red is probably the best overall of the album, especially with that buzzing B sound and the cool little bass breaks. That said, I still dislike Playing with Dolls, and I'm also not a big fan of American or Not of This God either. They're kind of cheesy, so I'm gonna still balance this one out. I would put it at great tier. And then we have Repentless in 2015. Can't believe it's almost been 10 years since this came out. We've got Terry Date producing instead of Rick Rubin, and with Hanneman having passed on by this time, so Gary Holt of Exodus steps in with Paul Bostaff once more on the kit. This was the longest gap between albums, which is unfortunate as I didn't really consider it to be worth the wait.
What do you mean, eh?
Yeah, sadly, this one feels a bit soulless to me. Like, Tom's vocals just don't grab me in the same way, and I'm even getting a little bit of Saint Anger, like on Take Control. Though the drumming is way better, of course. And speaking of which, funny that they even also have a title track with a music video set in a prison. There are some moments here and there, like Atrocity Vendor and You Against You, but also some crap like Vices and Cast the First Stone. I'm kind of just drifting through this one and often even waiting for it to be over. So yeah, sadly, going out on a low note for me, this one is also going to okay. Y'all check out this playlist for more thrash metal rankings, including everything from Metallica and Megadeth to Creator and Sadus. Or check out this video for your personal YouTube recommendation. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.